What up, everybody? We are back. Or I should say, I am back since Chris, again, as I mentioned in the first segment. If you guys are not listening to the podcast version, Chris Mandaffer is off this week. I should be pouring this on camera because he is doing work stuff. And so I am running the show solo. However, I do have his picks for this weekend's UFC on ESPN 10 Plus, Rochester. RDA versus Kevin Lee card, so I will mention those as we get going. And so I just poured this Telesto, I believe is the name of it. Let me make sure I got that right. Yep, Telesto Pale Ale from Modern Times, and this is supposed to be the new version of the Dreamcatcher, Dream something, whatever I said last segment. But this already, well, I imagine this is way fresher because the other one was from February. This one's from April 18th. So about a month ago, just under. Ooh, that's good. It's actually a little bit drier than the other one based on what I'm tasting. It's a little bit less orange juicy, but it's definitely fresh. You can definitely, it's probably the hot bite is still present in this one where it wasn't as much in the last one, but very good. I'm excited to keep sipping on this. I got a 4-pack of it, so pretty stoked. But we will go ahead and jump into this card. Oh, I should mention we did pretty fucking good on picks last week. I believe in Bellator 221, Chris went 4-1 and I went 5-0. The only fight Chris got wrong was Chandler. He had Chandler via KO in the second, whereas I had Patricio. But I had him by decision. I did not have him straight smoking Michael Chandler, despite the semi-controversial stoppage. I wouldn't say it's that controversial. I don't think it would have gotten better for Chandler, but still worth running back at some point. I'm sure. I think those two dudes already have enough drama between them, and it would be a fun fight to watch every time they fight. So I have no problem with them running that back at some point. But yeah, we both had Lima, we both had McGee, and we both had Hager. I did not have Hager via, just Paul Harsing a dude, but I guess that's one way to go about it, bro. But yeah, no, that was a big ass squash match in a way that I have a problem with, honestly. So that was kind of frustrating. Some of the fucking Bellator matchmaking, it's like Strikeforce. Some of the matchmaking Scott Coker does, like I like 90% of it, but there's that 10% that just it's the Kimbo Dadas and the Shamrock Gracies and the even Petrozelli Kimbo was more competitive. Like some of the matchmaking, though, I don't have any of the Bellator ones off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of, Strikeforce, sorry, off the top of my head, but some of that matchmaking is a little questionable. But in general, though, that card was fun. MVP did pretty well controlling wrists in the first round against Douglas Lima, which I was pretty surprised about. But yeah, Lima with that fucking low kick, right uppercut chopping right hand as he was coming up was pretty goddamn fantastic. And then yeah, AJ McKee getting that decision. So pretty fun Bellator 221. I already talked a bit about the UFC 237 card, but Chris and I both went 8-4 on that one, which is pretty respectable. Chris had everything right, but the Aldo Alves, Halaba, and Sergio fights, and I had everything right, but the Alves, Halaba, Sergio, and Toledo Bernardo fight. Wait, that's not. Oh, that is Toledo Bernardo. Oh, that's right. Fucking Vivian Araujo. I think it's Araujo. She was on fucking fire. I have not seen her look anything like that, but that was a fantastic showing out. And that's somebody to keep an eye on. Also, shouts out to Priscilla Cachoeira, always doing Priscilla Cachoeira things, and Betch Correa, always doing Betch Correa things. Never disappoint. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get into our picks for this UFC Rochester card. I'm going to burn through this shit since I don't have anybody to bounce off of. And since I have not done a ton of tape study, a lot of this is just straight up off of feel, which with this card, based on a lot of these matchups, is, I feel like, pretty fair. Julio Arce versus Julian Erosa opening up the night. Julio Arce, 15-3. Last fight coming up against Shayman Moraes, where he lost a split decision. Prior to that, he fought Daniel Tamer and Dan EJ. He's taking on Julian Erosa, Juicy J, who is 22-7. He's coming off of 2 losses, unanimous decision against Grant Dawson, and a loss via knockout in the first round to Devontae Smith. Prior to that, he had a win in the Contender Series. I've got Julio Arce via boxing the shit out of Julian Erosa. In general, I just think Julio Arce probably wins this where he wants to win this. Going decision with Shayman Moraes is impressive as shit. And Daniel Tamer and Dan EJ are tough fucking outs. So taking on somebody like Julian Erosa, who is tough, but who is mostly just tough, I'm going to go ahead and lean Arce. Actually, let me look. I know Arce is a huge favorite. I heard that this week on a bunch of podcasts. I would say probably, I'm trying to figure out how he gets this done. Yeah, I'm saying probably knockout in the first, honestly. But I don't feel great about that, the method on that. Chris also has Julio Arce, it looks like, which I expect most people do this week, to be honest. Sorry, if I'm typing these while actually having to run all the show makes it a little bit difficult. All right, so the odds on that one via I'm using Bet DSI. That's what we've been doing, right? Bet DSI currently Friday night has it at a minus 833 to a plus 550. That seems wide as shit, but I don't necessarily if you want a trash parlay, Julio Arce, not Julio Arce, Julian Erosa and like one other person. God, who is the other big underdog? Well, we'll get to it later. But if you want to take Derek Krantz and Julian Erosa in a $5 garbage parlay, that's not the worst idea. Actually, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. This is the kind of dumb parlays I do, and that's why I always lose money when I bet. So I'm like, well, it's more fun to do a real dumb parlay. All right, I'm gonna kind of bang through a couple of these in a row because some of these I don't have a ton to say about. Trevor Giles is the problem, 11-0, coming off the win over Antonio Brago Neto. Sure. And before that, he had the win over James Boknovic and Ryan. Oh, wow. Ryan Spann back in LFA. That's a pretty good one. And he's taking on Zak Cummings. Zak Cummings coming off the win over Trevor. I believe as Connor Rebush called him Mild Sauce Smith. Or I think Zane called him Spicy Mayo. By the way, has anybody come up with the phrase Jalap Mayo? Because I feel like it's very dumb, but somebody should have used it by now. So yeah, Trevor Hall, Mayo Smith. Before that, he had the loss to Michelle Praceres via decision split, and then went over Nathan Coy back in 2017. Man, going into this fight, I was pretty high on Zak Cummings just because I always am, but Zak Cummings. I just feel like the athleticism difference might be a problem in this fight. The size and athleticism, I just feel like unless Zak Cummings can just make this ugly as shit and real grimy with a lot of grappling exchanges, I just think it's going to be a long night. So I think I'm taking Trevor Giles, actually, which surprises me. I think there's going to decision either way, to be fair, and I can see it going to a split decision. Shit. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I don't know, man. You know what? No, I'm taking Cummings via decision. Just because Cummings, I think, is probably going to have enough veteran prowess to just eke out a round over Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles is definitely more athletic, and I feel like he could give Zak Cummings a lot of problems, but that's real coin flippy for me, to be honest. Odds on that one. Let's see. BetDSI has. Well, I need to stop saying their name because they're not sponsoring this show. Wow, Trevin Giles is the favorite. Minus 159 to plus 140. Shit. That does make me want to take him, but I'm not going to. Chris also has Zak Cummings, which I don't know. I'm not very. I just think that's going to decision. And if it goes to decision, the thought that Zak Cummings can't take 2 rounds is like, or at least take the last round and then a close round is, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not very confident either way. Up next, we got Patrick Cummins versus Ed Herman. Patrick Cummins 10-6, coming off of 2 straight losses to Misha Serkinov via arm triangle in the first, and Corey Anderson via decision. Prior to that, he had wins over Jean Vellante and Jan Blachowicz. And he's taking on Ed Herman, who's 22-14. Ed Herman's coming off the split decision loss to Jean Vellante, the decision loss to CB Dalloway, and the head kick in the second round loss to Nikita Krylov. I got Patrick Cummins in this in a knockout, actually. I'm going to say second round. Mostly because I just don't have faith in both Ed Herman's chin and Ed Herman's ability to. If this goes to decision, I think Ed Herman's loses this fight. If somebody gets knocked out, I think it's probably Ed Herman, unless he lands something that's just a very clean couple big hook counters, which is very possible because that's how this fight's going to be all big hooks in the pocket. Because that's what both these dudes do. And I just feel like a lot, outside of Cummins wrestling, if Cummins gasses in the second, that could be a fucking problem. But I feel like if Ed Herman is on the ground for 2 rounds, he's also going to gas. So, I'm taking Cummins via KO second, either ground and pound or from Ed Herman gassing after getting out wrestled for a good portion of the first part of the fight. But again, not real confident either way. The odds on this one, let's see. Pat Cummins is a minus 235 favorite to a plus 205 Ed Herman. Sounds about right to me. Up next, we got Mike Trizano versus Grant Dawson. I'm just going to go ahead and say I got Grant Dawson because that whole season of The Ultimate Fighter, I am pretty mixed on. Mike Trizano is coming off that split decision win over Luis Pena. Before that, he had the win over Joe Giannetti and John Gunther in tough. And then Grant Dawson is coming off of the win over Julian Rosa. Before that, he fought Adrian Diaz in Contender Series and was fighting in some regional shows like Titan and Victory prior to that. Something called Casey Fighting Alliance. I just have Grant Dawson in this. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's probably going to take a decision. Unless Mike Trizano is able to make this real long and just kind of win everywhere, I just have a real trouble seeing a way where Trizano takes this, unless he has improved a ton since his Ultimate Fighter run. Because I feel like his Ultimate Fighter run, dude did not fight guys who could wrestle at all. And Grant Dawson, John Gunther. Okay. I guess John Gunther can wrestle kind of. But well-rounded people who can wrestle, we'll say. Whereas I feel like just because Grant Dawson is better with the hands doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to be able to at least shut down a lot of Trizano's game. So I'm going to lean Dawson, but not confident. I would not, the Tiger Showman guys. I've seen a couple of them where they'll turn a corner, and when they do, it is pretty remarkable. I mean, Jimmy Rivera is probably one of the better examples of it, where they just figure out how to blend the two styles of both the kind of boxing and karate into also a wrestling game. And when Jimmy Rivera figured that out, he became fire on the feet because he was able to kind of mix and blend the two enough to make it lethal. And like Mike Trizano over time could probably be that guy too if he figures out how to work a wrestling game into his setups. It could be a lot more effective. But yeah, I got Dawson via decision because I think it's going to decision regardless. Let's see, Grant Dawson minus 159 to a plus 130. Mike Trizano sounds about right. Michelle Pereira fighting Danny Roberts. Michelle Pereira, 22-9, coming off the crazy win in Road FC where he was backflipping off the cage and hitting a dude and fucking just doing all of the shit that is going to make Caposa and everybody on Twitter freak the fuck out. And he's taking on Danny Roberts, Hot Chocolate, who's 16-4. He's coming off the loss to Claudio Silva in a scrappy as fuck fight that he was very competitive in big parts of. And then he has the win over David Zawada prior to that, who I believe David Zawada is on the KSW card this weekend, right? Nope, he's not. Who am I thinking of? Somebody with that last name is somewhere. Anyway. Yeah, I've got Danny Roberts in this all day. I am a big Michelle Pereira fan from that fucking Road FC fight where he's just doing, as Chad Dundas and Ben Folks would say, he just got to do all this stuff. But yeah, I got Roberts all day, probably via. Do I think he's gonna get the knockout? Probably not. He's definitely gonna get the decision. I don't know if he's going to be able to smoke him on the feet if he gets too wild. Probably. Yeah, there's not a lot of decisions on dude record. Fucking Kunlun. He found Chico Brazil and Akhmat. Dude has holy shit. Guy's been fighting since 2011. I did not realize that. Man, I don't necessarily hate Roberts getting the knockout in this. I think I'm going to take that, actually. I think I'm going to take Danny Roberts knockout second. Or TKO, probably more likely, but knockout TKO, somewhere in there. I just think I think the dude's either going to gas or dude's going to walk straight into something. And I believe, as Connor and Zane pointed out on the vivisection, he has a tendency to back himself up and just shell up a lot. And I think that could be big trouble against a dude like Danny Roberts, who, if you shell up, he will just walk for it and put heat on you. So should be fun, though. So let's see. Des Green is taking on Charles Ayers Jourdain, as I've heard everybody fucking mention this week. Des Green is 22-8, coming off the win over Ross Pearson, where you got the ground and pound finish in the first. Prior to that, he had the loss to Mervak Taisimov, win over Gleison Tebow, and decision losses to Michelle Praceres and Rustam Habilov. He's not Brazilian at all. And Charles Jourdain is coming off the win over Damian Lapalus in TKO. And part of that, he had wins in TKO over Alex Morgan, Kevin Genero, and Matar Lowe for his loss to, or after his loss to TJ Laramie. I definitely have Des Green going into this fight. I feel like Des Green has the big experience advantage in this fight, pretty considerably. And if I feel like this is going to decision, and if it does go to decision, I feel like Des Green is the dude to take it there. Most of Jourdain's finishes have come early in fights and on the TKO level, which TKO, as despite being a respectable organization, has been up and down in the levels of competition that we've seen in it, depending on because the ups and down that organization has kind of gone through over the years. So I just have much more confidence in Des Green to be able to fight his fight and win take Charles into deep water. So yeah, I'm definitely going Green via decision. Let's see odds on that one. Whoa, what the fuck? Des Green, this is by far the biggest odds on the board for him. At Bet DSI, I'm going to go ahead and call him out. He is a minus 1,111 favorite to a plus 600 Charles Jourdain. That's too fucking big, dude. That's too big. He could easily lose a split decision. Okay, if you want a trash 3-person parlay, or if you have, as co-main event would say, $20 you never care about, or $20 you don't care about seeing again, man, that is not a bad pick. Boy, that blows my mind. Anyway, up next we got Aspen Ladd versus Sijara Eubanks. I am fucking hyped for this fight. This is actually a rematch. Aspen Ladd 7-0. She previously fought Sijara Eubanks back in Invicta FC 21 in January of 2017 when she was 4-0. She got the unanimous decision in a pretty close fight and super competitive one. Sijara Eubanks 4-2. Is coming off the wins over Roxanne Modafferi back in November of 2018, since she had the fight fallout with Jessica I, which was previously scheduled for the beginning of the year, or I guess technically that's the end of last year. And then part of that, she had the win over Lauren Murphy via decision and Roxanne Modafferi via decision. Boy. Oh, and then she had that weight miss against Nico Montano. Aspen Ladd coming off the win over Tanya Evinger, which broke my goddamn heart. That is the opposite of how I saw that fight going. She also has the win over Alina Landsberg, both via ground and pound knockouts, or TKOs, technically, I believe. I'm having trouble not taking Sijara again, despite the fact that Ladd has the win over her previously. The problem I have is I think that Sijara at 125 pounds is very competitive with Aspen Ladd at that weight class. Aspen Ladd is bigger, but I think Sijara is probably I'm more confident in her ground game. However, I'm not more confident in her wrestling necessarily, which is her wrestling and her confidence in her stand-up is the two things I think are going to play most into this. If Sijara is not able to at least work in either an outside kickboxing game or not just let Aspen Ladd get volume off on her, I think that's the only way Aspen Ladd wins this, is if she either gets volume off on Sijara at range, even if a lot of them are missing Shevchenko style or Karolina Kovalkovich style. If Aspen Ladd's just throwing it air and Sijara is not putting out any volume or very little volume, I could see Sijara having trouble in that kind of decision. I could also see Sijara having trouble in a decision where if she at all starts getting tagged on the feet and get desperate in her takedown game, she doesn't set stuff up amazingly, and that could be trouble over time. However, I'm confident enough in Sijara's top game and in her distance striking that I think she's going to at least make Aspen Ladd miss and then either counter with big kicks or takedowns in a way that Aspen Ladd over two or three rounds is going to start either feeling the size of Sijara or the power of Sijara. And Aspen Ladd will put out a lot of volume, not with a lot of power, and doesn't vary her speed a ton. She does some, but not a ton. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Sajara wasn't able to either capitalize on a head and arm triangle or some sub from top position, or just land some big counters and back Aspen Ladd up and make her question coming forward. But I'm going to take Sajara via decision. I'm not very confident in it, though. Mostly because I feel like this is one of the harder style matchups for Sajara in that division, mostly just because of the volume and the cardio of Aspen Ladd can be a problem. But Aspen Ladd did make weight though this time, so we'll see what she looks like. Because when she misses weight, she looks much better cardio wise. So we'll see how that plays out over the rounds. Austin Hubbard, let's see, he is 10-2. His nickname is Thud. There's a nickname. He's coming off the win over Achilles Mota. Dog, I've been known to Achilles some Mota, you know what I'm saying? I have inflagoed the fuck out of it. And he's taking on Davi Ramos. Davi Ramos, the Tasmanian Devil, is 9-2, coming off wins over John Gunther, which, yeah. He also has wins over Nick Hine, Chris Grussmacher. Before that, he had the loss to Sergio Moraes. I've got Davi Ramos in this all day. The only way I see Austin Hubbard being able to make anything happen is if he's able to drag this into real deep waters and stuff any kind of grappling exchanges. And even then, that's a tall fucking order when dude's subbing guys like Grussmacher and Nick Hine and John Gunther. Like, if the only dude he's going to decision with in the UFC is Sergio Moraes, and he's a solid grappler, that is a tall fucking order, especially against a dude. Although, well, I guess his last loss was to Eric Wisely, which is actually pretty impressive. Eric Wisely's been looking good. But yeah, I got Davi Ramos in this via probably sub in the, I'll say first. Let's see. Odds on that one, he's got to be a huge favorite, I got to imagine. Minus 455 to a plus 360. It's actually a little closer than I would have expected, but not mad at it. Oh, let's see. Nik Lentz taking on Charles Oliveira. I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't have any faith in Nik Lentz to not get guillotined or rear naked choked. So I'm going to take Charles Oliveira via sub in the second round. Mostly because Nik Lentz has been doing a couple things lately. Nik Lentz has started sitting down on power shots, as I believe Vivisection pointed out this week. But he's also just been initiating just as many grappling exchanges as ever, but his cardio is not like it used to be, and that is a bad combo against a guy like Charles Oliveira, where if you're initially in grappling exchanges, you're either going to stick your head square into a guillotine, or you're going to lose a scramble and get your back taken and probably choke the fuck out. And I think if this fight goes to the second round, I think it's all Charles Oliveira. If Charles Oliveira doesn't stop the fight in the second round, I think Nik Lentz probably takes the third. So that makes this a bit more interesting. But I've got Oliveira via sub in the second all fucking day. And I gotta imagine the odds have to look something like that. How many times have these dudes fought? Here, let me look at that. Second. I know they fought a bunch. They fought twice before? Is that right? Oh, that's right. The first one was at a no contest because of the illegal knee. I totally forgot about that one. Interesting. Yeah. No, I've got Oliveira via sub in this. Probably first is more likely, but I like second because I think Lentz slows down and sticks his head into something. Odds on that one, Charles Oliveira minus 333 to a plus 270. Nik Lentz. Yep. That's about how I see it. Vicente Luque is fighting some dude. To be fair, Derek Krantz actually has been looking pretty good in the regional scene. Vicente Luque, the silent assassin, 15-6-1. Coming off the win over Brian Barberena via knockout or TKO in the third. Win over Jalen Turner prior to that. Chad Laprise and Nico Price or Nike Pierce. And then his most recent loss was to Leon Edwards back in March of 2017. Taking on Derek Krantz. Derek Krantz is 24-10. Let's see. Derek Krantz has the win in LFA over Justin Patterson. Part of that is a rite of passage fight. And then another couple LFA fights. Last loss was back in 2017 to James Nakashima. I thought I read it wrong the first time. I went with the second pronunciation, and then I realized, nope, it is Nakashima. Yeah, you gotta take Vicente Luque. Derek Krantz is scrappy as shit, but Vicente Luque is way too well-rounded and has been smashing everybody not named Leon Edwards since 2015. Last dude he lost to was Mike Graves, coming off the Ultimate Fighter, which that was he has 100% turned around his wrestling game, and he had that crazy win over Bilal Muhammad, UFC 205 in the first round, which I'm still blown away by. So, yeah, I've got Vicente Luque probably via probably via knockout in the first, if I'm being honest. But I could see him catching a sub. I could see him. It really depends on how desperate Krantz starts getting over time. But I think it should be a fun one either way. Okay. God, I really shouldn't set my beer right in front of the keyboard so I can't see what I'm typing. Let's see. So, odds on that one. No odds on that one website I was using. But on 5 dimes, it's a minus 975 to plus 775. Derek Krantz. Whew. Okay. I still agree with it, but that's pretty goddamn wide. Oh boy. So this is actually one of my favorite fights on this card. Megan Anderson, 8-3, coming off the loss, or coming off the win to Kat Zingano via TKO due to eye injury because her toe went her goddamn eye. Prior to that, she had the loss to Holly Holm and the win over Charmaine Tweet at Invicta 21. She's taking on Felicia Spencer, 6-0, who has been styling on people in Invicta. Got the RNC over Pam Sorensen in the fourth in Invicta 32. And had the win over Helena Kolesnik at Invicta 30 via RNC. Here's the thing in this fight. Megan Anderson has hands down fought the better competition. However, I don't know how much faith I have in Megan Anderson's takedown defense. We didn't really see much against Kat Zingano, but Kat Zingano is also not the best at closing the distance and hitting takedowns, especially early in fights. And that fight went 1 minute. So I think most of this comes down to, can Felicia Spencer hit takedowns in the first round? If she does hit takedowns in the first round, the earlier she hits them, the better. And I think if she's able to get Megan Anderson down for more than 2 minutes of the first round, I think she probably takes this fight. However, if at any point Felicia Spencer starts getting takedown stuffed or starts getting picked apart at range and backing up to the fence, she is going to get lit on fucking fire by Megan Anderson. So I'm having trouble with just it really feels like a bit of a coin flip for me. I'm going to take Felicia Spencer. I think Felicia Spencer, if she can at all collapse the distance, or if Megan gets overly aggressive and steps in too hard and collapses into the clinch, I think that probably Felicia Spencer can get body lock trips and end up on top, or at least induce enough scrambles that could cause problems. But man, it's real hard to not be worried about the length and size of Megan Anderson. And if Megan Anderson's able to just stick behind a jab and stuff a couple takedowns, I think this gets very rough for Felicia Spencer very quickly. Especially if she starts backing up to if she's at all circling against the cage, that shit is about to be done. But I'm gonna take Felicia Spencer via probably sub in the second, probably RNC, just because I don't know that Megan is going to be able to get up from bottom if she does start getting taken down. And if Felicia's able to keep that pressure, and I feel like she can probably catch a head and arm or a rear naked choke, depending on how desperate Megan gets with the stand-ups or with shutting down the grappling. So I'm going to lean that way, but it could go either way for sure in that one. And let's see, the odds are reflecting that. Megan Anderson is a minus 213 to a plus 175 Felicia Spencer. That's pretty surprising. I know those have moved around a lot over the past couple weeks. So I'm really excited about that fight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then let's see, in the co-main event, we have Shoeface, Antonio Carlos Jr. taking on Ian Heinisch. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all now, since I almost always pick Shoeface. He's 10-2. He's coming off the win over Tim Bosch via RNC in the first. He has the win over Jack Marshman via RNC in the first. He has a win over Eric Spicely via RNC in the first. And he's taking on Ian Heinisch, who's coming off the win over Cesar Vajeda. And then he also took on Justin Sumter in Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. Yeah, I've got Shoeface via either head and arm or rear naked choke in the first round. Unless Ian Heinisch is able to land from the outside and shut down any grappling exchanges, I just have to take Shoeface. I've been making hella points in fantasy MMA off him for a while. And dude's just too slick on the ground and is able to hit both sweeps and transitions way too cleanly against dudes. So I'm going to take RNC in the first, and I would not be surprised by a arm triangle, though. Some top position sub. And odds on that, he's got to be a big favorite. Wow, only a minus 169 to a plus 260. No, wait, minus 169 to a plus 150. Ian Heinisch. That kind of surprises me. Ian Heinisch did look real good in his last fight, but I don't know. I don't know about all that. And then lastly, in the main event, we got RDA taking on Kevin Lee. RDA 28-11. He was coming off the losses to Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington via decision. Prior to that, he had the win over Robbie Lawler, where he landed 400 punches on Robbie, it felt like. And then he had the win over Neil Magny and Tarek Safadine. Kevin Lee, 17-4. Coming off the loss to Ali Quinta in his last fight via decision. Prior to that, he fought Edson Barboza and got the doctor stoppage in the 5th round. After losing to Tony Ferguson via triangle and getting the mostly legit win over Michael Chiesa via RNC. Man, I basically could just repeat what I heard Jimmy Smith, Conor Rebush, and Zane Simon talk about on the MMA vivisection for this fight. It's essentially how I felt about it going into it, and they just reaffirmed a lot of the feelings I had. RDA does great, except against dudes who pressure and who wrestle. Kevin Lee pressures and wrestles. Kevin Lee is also probably going to do better at range with kicks. So the only way I see RDA winning this fight is if he is able to open up with long combos and boxing pressure. But that opens him up to losing takedowns, and Kevin Lee is pretty clearly going to be the bigger dude in this fight, it feels like. At least range-wise. I believe he has a 7-inch reach advantage or something insane. So I'm taking Kevin Lee. I'm taking Kevin Lee via sub, actually, which is kind of crazy. Mostly just because his top pressure is trouble for guys anyway. And I feel like his chin and his cardio is actually going to get better as he moves at 170. And if his chin and his cardio is better, I feel like he's going to be more dominant with his top position wrestling game. So RDA, I just have trouble thinking he's not going to be able to survive in long exchanges and grappling and pressure. And RDA faded pretty bad in the Colby fight. He rallied late, but Colby is really like just the footwork and pressure, and RDA moving backwards and trying to land that one big shot over and over again caused him a bunch of issues. So I'm going to take Lee via probably rear naked choke in the third, but I think more realistically it's probably going to decision. The sub pick for me is probably more cardio and kind of Kevin Lee trying to make a statement than it is RDA's sub defense by any means, or even Kevin Lee's offensive grappling. So that is how I see that going. Let's see the main event. We got, oh man, this is pretty much dead fucking even. Minus 111 Kevin Lee to a minus 108 RDA. But that's been going back and forth all week. Some of these places, actually most of these places still have even. So I think it's going to be a hell of a fight, and it should be a lot of fun overall. Also, there's that KSW 49 card, which despite Eddie Mercado's statements on it, I think will be there'll be some fun fights on it. There's definitely some shit show fights, but should be all right. Glory was today. Sage Northcutt, Sage Northcutt got flatlined by Cosmo Alexander today. It's pretty wild. If you want to go check that out, it's all over Twitter. I believe Kaposa, Grabaka Hitman on Twitter posted that. But should be a fun one. We will maybe be back next week. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to try and, you know what? I'm going to try and talk Chris into doing a commentary this week, mostly because we didn't actually record like a full show this week because he was busy with stuff. So I was going to take next week off, but maybe we'll do a commentary on, I believe there was a movie Bisbing was in recently that he saw that was pretty all right. So maybe we'll do that. If not, we will be back for the fights just after that, starting in the beginning of June. So, or maybe end of May. Next card's the 30th. No, next card's June 1st. It looks like. So should be fun. But till next time, everybody, you guys can always follow us on Twitter, TSOV Pod. Hit us up. Let us know what MMA podcasts we're sleeping on and which ones we should check out. Also, you can always leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us a ton. Helps us get new eyes on the show. Share the posts we put up with your friends. Any new eyes is always helpful. Makes us feel like we're actually doing something and not just talking to Judo Bill and everybody every week. Not that we dislike it. We love you, Judo Bill and Lawfits and all y'all. But we will be back hopefully next week, and we'll keep you updated. Also, if you subscribe on YouTube, we always try to do playlists of any of the podcasts we talk about. And as always, link in the description for any of the shows we talk about. So, till next time, everybody, go drink some Modern Times Telesto if you got it near you. If you don't, go drink some local craft beer. Shouts out. Enjoy the fights. We out. Go do something decadent. Bye.